where those who perceive truth may strive to make others see.
A big, powerful America, and shoot them for what?
On that continent, we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other.
With the last words on my lips, that I am a revolutionary. And you're going to have to keep on saying that.
They say sunlight is the best disinfectant.
It just seems like we're at the point with technology where the physical and the digital worlds should really be fully blended. And that's what the holographic overlays allow you to do.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would,
this is a long hesitation.
I think the primary cause of death to Palestinians. Okay, do you want to hear the answer, or do you want to yell? Well, you don't want to hear an answer? Obviously. So the primary source of death in Palestine is the fact that Hamas has realized that there are millions and millions of useful idiots.
All right. But we set up Doge. Yes. How much do you think we can rip out of this wasted $6.5 trillion Harris-Biden budget? Well, I think we can do at least $2 trillion. Yeah! Yes.
People use it, young people especially, use it as a therapist, a life coach, having these relationship problems. What should I do? And right now, if you talk to a therapist or a lawyer or a doctor about those problems, there's legal privilege for it. There's doctor-patient confidentiality, there's legal confidentiality, whatever. And we haven't figured that out yet for when you talk to ChatGPT.
Joining us now is Senator Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan. Senator, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So, why don't you answer that question? Why is this now is the time that you do care?
Yeah,
Just not
obviously,
particularly care.
It's horrible when you have a pedophile and someone who had a literal pyramid scheme of recruiting 14 and 15-year-old girls.
Virginia says they're as young as 12, and there's another report that they're 11 and 12. But then I know of other people I know of therapists who have counseled Epstein victims, and we can get into that later. And actually, a lot of those victims a number of those victims were under the age of 10.
At the time, I sort of saw it as one of these horrible stories that comes out every 5 months, about somebody. I think the Weinstein thing had happened. There weren't Michiganders, to my knowledge, who were involved, women, young girls who were involved. So I kind of saw it as a horrible moment, but not particularly something that's going to decide whether someone in my state can buy a house or get a good job.
We need to understand that we are being eaten alive as a populace by the depraved few.
So Apollo comes in, they buy the smelter, they promise that they're going to do right by the 2,500 families whose, workers are there. And they immediately loaded up with debt. This was a company that did not have a lot of debt. And so it didn't have enormous interest costs. It didn't have to pay those costs.
I just want to ask, when they loaded up with debt, do they say, okay, these are our assets, and they put the assets, that's how they can get the debt because they're putting the assets up as collateral?
Correct. So the asset is this smelter and this huge infrastructure. And they also had a very low cost of electricity.
Just to interrupt again, is the debt used to pay for the acquisition?
Yes. The debt is used to pay for the acquisition, but it again allows the private equity firm to take the money out, right? They're loading the debt onto the company itself, not onto the private equity firm. So the company is the one that now has to struggle with the debt costs, the increased interest expense that's associated with the debt. So Noranda, they load it up with debt. Almost immediately, Apollo gets its money out, all of its money out.
Which it wasn't that much.
Wasn't that much. Maybe even 6 months or something like that. They were able to extract all the money by putting the debt on the company, okay? So now Noranda is struggling. under this debt load. Apollo then raises more debt. They ultimately make 3 times their money on the Noranda purchase. Meanwhile, the company starts to struggle,
And it
not
goes up, it
surprisingly.
goes under because it has to service the debt now.
It starts to struggle because it has to service the debt. So then Apollo says, wow, this is a problem. We need to negotiate with the state of Missouri's utility commission to lower our electricity costs, or otherwise we're going to leave. We're going to sell the company, take it somewhere else or something. So they negotiate with the utility commission a lower rate, even though it means that the other ratepayers in Missouri have to pick up the slack, have to cover that difference. Apollo gets the lower rate. It then starts to fire people because it can't make ends meet. The company is struggling. Again, the debt is too high.
Corruption is paid for by the poor.
And he said, well, once you're compromised, it's like you're on a yacht. It's a beautiful yacht and it's a beautiful day and you can have anything you want on that yacht. But if you decide to get off that yacht, the people on the yacht are going to make sure that you drown. Media refuses to talk about it, which I find kind of mind-boggling because it's so obvious. There was a Tennessee representative, U.S. representative named Tim Burchett, came out about 1.5 years ago and said, my colleagues are being compromised in honey traps.
Do you think AIPAC should register as a foreign lobby?
I don't know the answer to that. I think that I know plenty of people who think they should.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't.
It's kind of a cop-out answer, don't you think?
I mean,
yeah.
I literally, I just guess I'd have to look at the definition. I certainly have had my tough moments with that organization. And
so you stop accepting their funding?
You gotta get your facts straight. I have not been endorsed by AIPAC. I have not. I'm sorry. I was the first Jew elected to the Senate that was not endorsed by any Jewish group. AIPAC, J Street.
You've been the recipient of their funds.
In 2018, when I first ran, people who were members, yes.
And forgive me if this is impolite. Like, I'm curious why you wanted to talk to us.
What do you mean?
Well, like, we don't have actually a lot of senators, especially ones who have very different ideology than us, reach out. So I'm curious what your goal was and why you thought to come here.
You know, one of the most powerful descriptions I've heard of the actual CIA is the idea of it being a secret society in the government, within the government, that has the ability to act independent of the morals that may restrict us in keeping up with countries like China and Russia, okay? I want people to understand MK Ultra was a very real thing that took place. CIA agents would drug coworkers and random people. One guy ended up abusing and killing a small kid after he was drugged. An officer ended up robbing a store, and it obviously ruined lives. One of the whistleblowers ended up dead. The family was left without answers and, dare I say, without real justice in any way. Seymour Hersh turned the CIA down when they tried to recruit him to kill leaders in a foreign country and staged the scene as if someone within that foreign country or another group within that foreign country actually did the deed. The idea was that they wanted to really create disruption in these particular places and have these people fight each other and make it easier to get what they wanted to get done. they have been known for staging coups, providing weapons, funding, and resources to very controversial entities within those particular countries. Okay? When we talk about those themes of astroturfing, burying caches of weapons, money, these are a lot of the tactics that were used. And Alan Dulles was the head of the CIA and helped mold it in a lot of different ways. And I don't think people really understand. He was a finance guy, right? He aligned much of the CIA's efforts into, benefit the financial entities that he was tied to. When it comes down to the networks, there was a, what was it called? The Devil's Chessboard by, the Devil's Chessboard. And I'm going to give this disclaimer, and I'm going to let you take it however you will. The CIA has denied all of this, or denied this book and denounced this book. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh. It's a serious matter. But the CIA has denounced this book. But Alan Dulles, according to this book, Alan Dulles went to basically Europe and created a network that was independent from the actual network from the actual network that the U.S. knew about, that the president knew about, right? He very much had his own. It very much did sound like a secret society that Alan Dulles decided to build. Some people believe that he was connected to the assassination of JFK. This idea, I think, really helps you understand just how off the rails Alan Dulles was. He would be very bold in trying to get just top-ranking Nazi officials out of punishment, out of the Nuremberg trials. He would do that, and these guys were just, they didn't care. They didn't care in a lot of cases, and they felt like just entitled to whatever they got in a lot of cases. It was crazy. And he was bold about this in terms of, or he wasn't, I won't say that he was bold, I'll say that it was bold, his actions were bold, right? Because Alan Dulles wasn't really he wasn't, a lot of these top figures that create these intelligence networks and everything, they're really, they are very much not on the front lines of being spies. They're not known for sticking their personal necks out. They just basically know how to create systems to where they can shake hands with the killer, or with the with the person that will actually do any deed that they need done. And that's another important thing. Like, a lot of these guys at the top of these agencies, they're not known for going out. They're not going out to beer with the guys after work. They're not doing any of that. It's just they're just using everyone to get what they want and the power that they want. And it's pretty disgusting when you really think about it. Now, I think when it comes down to what we're seeing today, the idea of sunlight being a disinfectant for a lot of these guys, I think it's excellent that these guys think that, hey, let's go out and and influence the public. In your CIA, I'm like, yeah, please tell us more about what the CIA wants us to know. It's hilarious. But I want you guys to understand something. Edward Snowden, just to get a real grip on the culture right now, Edward Snowden is still wanted for espionage in the U.S. He's still receiving refuge from, quote unquote, our enemy, Russia, right? But if you go through and you ask any number of people throughout the streets, they will likely, unless you're in Washington, D.C., I suppose, but they will tell you Edward Snowden wasn't a criminal. He didn't do anything wrong. There's no reason for that. That's something that we believe in mass, but for some reason our government does not act that way. That's not how they're guided operationally for some reason. The U.S. government, they made Julian Assange plead guilty to crimes, right? And they released him from jail. And people, I was personally a part of a group that was, trying to advocate for that. But the idea here was people don't understand. That's a message when you have to plead guilty to that, to anything like that. That's a very, and people need to understand this message, because there was a case called the Pentagon Papers where Daniel Ellsberg basically blew the whistle on a report that was done that showed how crazy it was for us to really be in Vietnam. And the president was outright lying to the people at this time. So he came out with these papers. Of course, the mainstream media, the state-funded media, they denied a lot of times to say no, to basically just publishing the papers in general, and it's gotten a lot worse, and we'll talk about that now. But he wanted to give these papers to people. He wanted to give these papers to the publications and show them that. And there's a few that said, hey, okay, we'll take it, and they actually did their job in terms of actually basically publishing the papers and showing that. And there were a lot that didn't. But the real kicker is that at the end of the day, Daniel Ellsberg went to jail. He went to prison, or he was arrested. But in court, they found out, or they basically said, hey, look, this was corruption, you uncovered it. We can't really, let's just go ahead and drop all these charges, because this is actually ridiculous that you're actually, being blamed for wanting to tell the American people, basically uphold the ideals that we try to advertise for. We can't really say you did anything wrong here. Not Julian Assange, but Daniel Ellsberg worked in those areas. He was a contractor, I believe, and then he worked for the government, and then he went back to contracting. But in any case, he actually was a whistleblower. He, in terms of actual being, there's a difference between being a whistleblower and publishing whistleblowers and whistleblowers information. You can legally go after the whistleblower. There are loopholes to do that, so they attacked him as a whistleblower. What they did to Julian Assange was not a whistleblower. He did not work for the government. He published documents that were leaking. That he was punished as a publisher. You need to understand that difference in terms of the moral erosion that had to occur for us to really say, oh, he is guilty and he deserves to be in prison. You need to people really do need to come to a realized moment in terms of how dark this place has gotten in terms of that idea. So when you talk about the CIA today, how things are now, there is absolutely no reason to believe that the CIA has been reined in any way or shape. There is the atmosphere, the culture, it is a problem, right? And for those that don't know, we had Edward Snowden was, he was our guy that blew the whistle on, kind of 2001, or with the 9/11, basically the crazy overreach that was happening and that was taking place. Before that, then that wasn't really with the spying, but it was with the Vietnam War. So Daniel Ellsberg had a really rein-in moment for the government in a huge way. But there was also a concept of the Frank Church Committee. They reined in a lot of, or they really held They held a lot of people accountable, even though I've heard that we haven't gotten everything from the Frank Church Committee in terms of everything hasn't been released. So maybe not everything, but a lot of aspects of the FBI, the COINTELPRO stuff was crazy. J. Edgar Hoover was actually like really gung-ho about creating a spy network under the guise of whatever, like fighting communists. We do monster stuff to fight communism. It's crazy, but we haven't had that moment for COVID. We have not had that moment. That moment has not seen the light of day yet for COVID. We have heard we've heard the rumbles, right? A lot of us have heard rumbles like, yo, you're deplatforming, people under this idea, and it's kind of wild. YouTube got stringent. We've seen very much the symptoms of an off-the-rails government, but we did not see something tell us like, oh, this is the problem. This is the real problem. These are the real things going on. And when it comes down to the CIA, what we're seeing today with these guys come out and say that, oh, we're ex-CIA, and I've seen the curly-haired guy comes out, I'm ex-CIA, I'm gonna tell you, oh, that's great, you can tell us everything about what the CIA really wants us to know. That'd be really, really nice. And then this woman, I thought I was in a Twilight Zone when I first heard her say that, hey, yeah, I was a CIA and I really wanted to serve my country. I'm like, what? There is, what? And let's talk about the only way someone is to be trusted when they claim they are no longer an operative today. They're receiving refuge in Russia, and the U.S. is calling them an enemy of the state. They're on their deathbed waiting to create apology letters and need you to write what they have to say. If you're ever at a party and someone introduces themselves as ex-CIA, assume the place is bugged. Assume the food is poisoned or drugged. Leave the party and make sure to take any persons that you love. Because the only reason someone would introduce themselves as ex-CIA is if they want you to trust them and believe they should hold an authoritative place. Michigan, blink twice, okay? Just blink twice if you're in trouble.